Good evening. Give me 1 second. I have to one thing on my other device, and then we're going to talk about that work session. Now the thing about the work sessions is that they can go for quite some time, right? Because you're having an open discussion. So that was a really long video that in a very long work meeting. Um, we did learn some things tonight that I want to address. And I want to talk about this accountable talk thing for a second, and I think I'm going to show some of what the internet says about accountable talk. I do just want to, and there was a slippery muddy hill, which that's where we're going to start. um, it matters if we are putting on a show when our administrators or our board of education agency chiefs, whatever, it matters if we're putting on a show. Now, yes, I understand that there is a fear of retaliation and doing things right. I get those things, and I don't know how sincere the agency is in honestly addressing those things, right? Like, I know there's some documents on the agenda for tomorrow's policy council meeting, which do speak to those things as far as retaliation and whistleblowing within the agency. Um, but putting it on paper and doing it in practice, as with any workplace culture, are very different things. That being said, if we like, it is like if I ever became a member of the board of education, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to really see the problems if I have to call ahead of time and say, hey, I'm coming in, or like that. Then you can have all that, you cover up the mess, and it's not a mess that's anybody's to blame for. But when we operate like that, like, it prevents us from our seeing the eyesores, right? Um, so now there should be safety precautions in there, right? Like, if somebody from the Board of Education goes to a school, maybe they're not allowed to document anything, or they're not allowed to write anybody up, or, some type of buffer there to where if they come into the school and announce they're literally just coming to observe, right? And if at a teacher's or principal's direction, the principal goes, hey, would you like to join us in this activity? Of course, engage with the kids, right? But we need to those work groups. I that'll be That's one of the things that the work groups is gonna try to figure out. And good, I I really hope it's in good faith. That's not a dig at anybody. It's just this: we are in an agency here, and you are up against a old inmalleable culture. So even for the board, recognizes that there's in-depth work to be done, right? Like, they have their own challenges that are going to have to navigate through to on behalf of the agency, right? Because it is an agency, it exists, it runs. No matter who's in the positions, no matter who the superintendent is, this machine is going, right? So that is just food for thought to both sides here: agency, administration, and teachers. Like, we have to have some, I guess, my thought there is blind trust to that effect, right? um the I wanted to talk about accountable talk. Now, there's two pieces to this accountable talk thing. Three, actually. There's for the fact that we're using accountable talk, the fact that Hanover is Hanover did their assessment, the instructional assessment, and they had some feedback on what's happening with accountable talk. And then we have the feedback we're getting from some of our teachers, And then we have training on accountable talk versus using accountable talk, right? So tonight I heard a lot of a general consensus from different age ranges that the teachers are tired of the accountable talk training. And that's fair. Okay. You're the teacher. I'm not the teacher. Okay. My question to the teachers is, you're tired of the training that you're getting, but is accountable talk still good or bad? Right? Like, is accountable talk working with the students? Is it helpful? Or and is it just the training that you find redundant? Right? Because according to the feedback from Hanover, we had an opportunity to develop more into the potential behind a program like accountable talk. Right? So I understand that your problem. I don't understand. I'm gonna guess that the training you're getting is, very basic. Here's your list of 10 stems. Here's what we want you to do, and this is what it means when you talk accountably during a lesson plan or during a math lesson, right? Okay, but if you look on Google for just a second, okay, like accountable talk is more than just math. This one right here, okay? This I want to add, I disagree because I agree because what did you mean by that reminds me of I like what you said about those are stems our students can use when they're calling each other bad names. Now, there is a social emotional piece which did get brought up. One of the first things our STA president said was that they need time for the social emotional piece to teach the social emotional skills, that they're not getting any of that time in the classroom. And it kind of got rolled over tonight as this was like an introduction to what these work groups are about to do, but I'm repeating it because I think that by talking accountably about these things when our kids are when our teenagers and when our middle schoolers are arguing with each other, right? These are accountable talk stems. And where else would accountable talk be helpful? When that restorative piece with teachers, right? So we also talked tonight about how the teachers were being assaulted and attacked, and then children were just being put back into their classroom without speaking to them or without addressing it, right? There's opportunities in accountable talk to use accountable talk stems to get us through those conversations. Okay, so in my humble little opinion is don't give up on accountable talk just yet, right? Like we have, it's new in the district, and if it's not working and it's like bad, then okay, that's different than saying I'm tired of this training because you're giving an entry level training every month. Every time we get a new teacher, the entire team has to come in and do the same entry level training. We get the introduction, but can we have a further development of it? Right? Where's the next level training? How do we go from being understanding, I'm doing this lesson today because last week I learned how to multiply numbers by themselves, and now this week I'm doing square roots. How do we go from that type of counting and talkably in our lesson plans? How do we cross that into some of these other cultural issues within our schools? Would be my question. And do the teachers think that it's possible to do that? Right? Because I don't doubt that the training gets redundant. I know it does by far. But what, is it uh just a redundant training thing? Is it not having access to enough resources thing? Is it only being able, and I don't mean resources and spend more money, guys. These things are free on Google. Is it not having a clear um understanding of the different ways accountable talk can be used, or is it really just something the teachers don't like, and if the teachers don't like it, that's fine. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. I know there's a parent problem here. I know that our parents are using bad words on their children at home behind closed doors, and then the kids are walking out of the house and repeating what the parents said to them. I get that. I don't take away from that. We are talking about cultural change and growth. These things, you plant a tree, you water the tree, you take care of the tree, you protect the tree from extreme heat and extreme weather, and it grows, right? And that is how culture shifts, theoretically, right? So I just, again, it's new to the district. So if it's the training, then it's the training. That's fine. Um, I don't, there was a lot discussed at the meeting. We did have some athletes who did speak in the beginning of the board meeting, and most people did not see, were not able to see that. Because it, anyways, I'm going to clip that part for our student athletes who came and spoke at the board tonight. And I will put that out so they get acknowledgement and their recommendation for what they are doing as far as the sports athletic conduct. I think it was. There was a little bit more to it, but I'll clip the whole thing. So everybody can see that piece and how talking with respect and talking accountably and this pilot program that they're already doing in the schools um was able to help our student athletes at various schools meet some of the challenges between home life, workforce life, and the school force, right? So um I there, there was just again, like, it was a really long video. I'd encourage you guys to scroll through it a little bit, right? Because there's a lot of different pieces to it. We talked about the centuries, right? And it was brought up that our school centuries and maybe even some teachers assistants definitely need definitely need training. And I don't know what that type of training is. They didn't really go into it too much. It was just kind of centuries need more training, right? And that's one of those things that's kind of quiet. Like, I couldn't tell you. I think we're hiring our own centuries. Maybe, no, I don't know. Like, that's an unclear part of the system here. But I do know that our school centuries typically are young in age. They're former students, right? So whatever training they are getting, we need to take those things into consideration. They probably know a lot of these kids on the outside. They know their parents. They went to high school graduations together, things of that nature. We need to make sure our protocols and our policies are um hook, line, and sinker, and that those boundaries for our centuries are very clear, right? Like, front door is front door. Even if you know that parent, you don't let them in another door because you know they're a parent. They still have to go all the way around the school to get into the building. And I'm not saying that our centuries are helping people get in. I'm just laying out a very easy to understand example of why training protocols and policies matter and how it varies for different people, because you're not going to give the centuries the same training you're going to give a first year teacher, just like you wouldn't give a first year teacher the same training you give a fifth year teacher. All of those things are different, and they should all be unique, but they all need to be of equal quality. So, what do I mean by of equal quality? Right? So, the rules the centuries at one school get, the hard boundaries, the yes and the no's, all school centuries get those rules. Okay? They don't change because Delaware's small and Henniger's huge, right? Um, and they, if we, there's a difference, I think, in my humble opinion, to my understanding of things, there's a difference between equality and equity, right? And I'm going to lay this out real simple, and I'm not going to jump into it, but I say this to acknowledge President Barnett, okay? Because we have now shifted into some theoretical commentary here. And It is okay to have disagreements, but there are certain things in a system of multiple different businesses that need to be the same, right? Like your menu doesn't need to be the same at every restaurant, but your health and safety protocols in every restaurant need to be the same, right? Right? So the same goes there for training of our staff. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's there are ways to say, okay, it's equal, but it's not still equitable, right? Like if everybody has to meet downtown for a specific training, but majority of our staff lives outside of the city, they have to spend more gas to get to that mandatory training. So that is an equity issue, right? Because more resources are being spent by one group than another group to come up with the same equal product or to try to get to the similar end result, I guess, right? But we're not, before we get, before, in my opinion, something comes before that. Access and equal access comes before that. So we need to figure out what that same thing is, and then when we figure out what the same thing is, then we have the more complex conversations. I think that that's just in my head, right? And that's not with trying to get too deep into any culture war any which way. But we do have Syracuse City School District does have a history here. And I'm not going to sit here on this screen and pretend and not acknowledge that we do have equity issues. And I don't want to take anything away from acknowledging that we have those equity issues. But I do think that repairing some of the fundamental pieces here does support the goal that we're looking at across the board as far as quality, education, and growth and workforce readiness and success. Um, so that's my thought. And watch the video, guys, because there's a lot in it. So go through it, pick different parts, check it out. They went through a lot. They talked about the state aid formula tonight and potential changes, and there's a timeline of dates for our budget, right? So make sure you go get those budget dates. Because it looks like we're gonna have some new type of community involvement, right? They're going to be reaching out to the community in different ways, and we're going to have the city common council meeting, but they've clearly identified some dates where we can get in and provide some feedback on the budget. And again, remember the budget, we have a new strategic plan. So this budget this year, according to last year's aid documents, it is based on those strategies, right? Yeah, I know it was. We looked at the documents from 2 years, but it says the same thing. We all know that, right? So, look for those things. Be familiar with those things. Get your copy of the strategic plan, download it, run it through Google, Syracuse City School District Strategic Plan. You can ask your school for it. You can call Family Engagement and have it mailed directly to you in a really pretty colored pamphlet. Know what those things are. Know where the strategy of SCSD is as a whole, as 36 and then some more groups all running towards success. And with that, I'm going to say goodnight.